Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my spoiler-free review of The Nevernight Chronicle by Jay Kristoff. It's an adult grimdark fantasy series which has 3 books. The first one is Nevernight, the second one is God's Grave, and the last and final book is Dark Dawn. I started reading this trilogy on January and I read the first 2 books in the first 2 months of the year, and after that I don't know what happened and I just put the series on a pause for 3 months, and finally I picked up the last book, Dark Dawn, this month, and I should say it was a really great decision. It was not as fast-paced as the first 2 books, but it was a really fulfilling and satisfying finale for the entire series. First, I'll talk about the various parts which I consider for a book review, and finally I'll talk about the 3 books separately. So without any further ado, let's get into the video right away. Starting with the plot, we have a main character, Mia Corvere, who has lost her family due to some things which happen in her life, and we follow her trying to avenge the death of her family by bringing down the person who caused their murder. And in order to do this, she is to become an assassin. The first book actually deals with her being trained in the assassin school and how she becomes an assassin, whether she becomes an assassin or not, and who are the other types of people who get trained along with her. These are many things which we see throughout the series. Also, since her family is lost, Mia is currently an orphan and she's brought up by this other character who also serves as a teacher for her in order to send her to this assassin school. It is a really dark story set up in a really dark world, so I definitely say that it's suitable only for adults and not for anyone else at all, because the content in this one is so heavy and so gory, and at times it's also sexually a lot more mature, so it is definitely not suitable for young readers. If you're a person who likes reading really dark stuff and gory stuff, I'm sure that this will be a treat for you. Also, each and every character in the story is really well crafted by the author. There are some instances during the plot in which we'll not be able to predict anything at all. There will be multiple possibilities, but the selection that the author makes during each and every part of the story is really different and mostly perfect for the moment that he's trying to build up. At times the plot seems a bit slow because of some of the groundwork that the author is laying on, but as a whole the plot in this one is really strong, and Mia trying to avenge the death of her family is the actual plot of the book, and Mia trying to avenge the death of her family is the actual plot of the entire series. Moving on to the characters, we have several main characters, but we have 3 main characters whom we focus on for most of the part. And first of all these 3 main characters is Mia herself, and she proves to be the center focus of the story throughout the series, because not during any point of the 3 books does the focus get averted from her at all, because she proves to be the center of focus for the entire story to revolve around. Also, she has 2 friends who train along with her by her side in the assassin school. They are Trick and Ashlyn. We also have some other people who also train along with her in the first book, and some of them make appearances in the further books and some of them don't. We also have some teachers inside this assassin school itself who are kept just in order to train these assassins and make these people into assassins, and to evaluate the people who are fit enough to become assassins in this particular league. Another important thing about the characters in this series is that each and every one of them is totally morally grey. You'll not be able to decide even a single character is good or bad, because everyone has something really dark and very bad going on in their life, and some things they have done on their own. So all those things come and mesh along well together and provide this beautiful platter of different characters who are totally morally grey, yet most of whom we get really attached to because of the many things that they experience throughout the series. And as a whole, the character work in this one was really amazing. Moving on to the world building, as I said before, it is a grimdark fantasy series, so the world is really horrible and definitely not suitable for the light-hearted at all. Each and every page contains at least a little bit of darkness to it, given to it by the author, and I should say the author has made a really good job of presenting this world in front of us, because it's totally a different world, and the geography of the world the story takes place is also really well laid out in front of us. There are multiple aspects of the world building in this series which I loved a lot. The first one was the history that he gives. Okay, he uses multiple ways in order to give us the history of this world without providing infodumps, which was really an interesting thing to read. We have this various shadow creatures who are called passengers that ride certain people alone in this world, and these creatures called the passengers, they are used to absorb the fear away from the people whom they are with. For example, the main character Mia Corvere in this one, she also has a passenger, and it is in the shape of a cat named Mr. Kindly. There are normal people and Darkin in this world. Darkin are the people who have this animal companion or passenger along with them, and the others are normal human beings just like us. Also, all the 3 books have different setups in which the entire story takes place as a whole. For example, the first one is mostly focused within this assassin school alone, and when we move on to the second book, the scope becomes a bit more wider. There are also some characters who have some special abilities which they have got because of some sacrifices that they have done. We have 2 such characters who work in this assassin school itself, named Adonai and Mariel. I'm not going to say what their powers are, you will have to read and enjoy, because their powers are so huge, yet the sacrifice that they've made for them is huge compared to the power that they have. These are just some of the chunks that I'm saying about the world building of this entire series. For a 3-book series, the world in this one was far too intricate and really well visible for me. Moving on to the writing of the series. The writing is the only thing which I felt a little bit difficult. It was good, but it was difficult for me as a reader because I am not used to reading this kind of writing in most of the books which I have read. But I should say that I enjoyed the writing in this series as a whole because it was very different from what I've read any time before, and the perfect words that I can use to describe this type of writing is that it is really brutal and very much over the top. Also, I said that the world building was really intricately done, right? That is one thing which the author has used really witfully, if you ask me. He has had a lot of footnotes, okay? At times it was very irritating to just step down and read the footnotes and come back because he builds the world using info dumps in the footnotes itself, so that it's not necessary to read the footnotes in order to understand the world. Yet at the same time, the footnotes are nothing but just info dumps, but the author makes them also a bit more enjoyable by incorporating a little humor with the history that he's telling to us. In the last chunk of the book also, we don't get info dumps for nearly 100 pages, and towards the end, the author just puts in another huge footnote and says that you thought that I've stopped writing footnotes, right? But not at all. It's a continuing one. He says that and writes it back. It is a bit funny yet annoying at times, but the way in which he has used it in order to build this world and show the brutality and the originality of this world as a whole was a really clever move, if you ask me. Talking about the pacing of this one, it was really fast paced when it comes to the first book. I should say that though the writing was a bit tough for me to get along with in the first book, the pacing provided us a really good support for that because the story was moving continuously really well and also at a very brisk pace. I did not feel like I want to keep the book down and take a break at all because the story was moving in such a smooth and consistent pace throughout. Also, the pace is not constant throughout all the three books. I can say that the first book is really decently paced. It's just over 400 pages long. The first 300 pages are really fast, and the last 100 pages are even faster. We have like a ton of twists just provided in the last 100 pages of the book itself, and while you close the book, you'll just be able to feel how much the author has put into the book from just how fast you'll be able to read the last chunk of the book itself. And when it comes to the second book, I can divide it into three parts. The first part or first third of the book was a bit slow for me. The second third was the part during which I was able to make sense of the style in which the author has written, because I said that we follow two different timelines, right? Both of them actually happen within a single year span, but they are happening in different geographical regions featuring the same characters, so it's a bit confusing for the first third of the book. But in the second third, as I said before, we start to get sense of what's happening, and the last 30% of God's Grave is the best chunk of the entire series personally for me because I enjoyed it the most. I was not able to put the book down literally. I read the last 30% of the book in one go. It was that excellent to read. And when it came to the third book, I can say that the first 40% of the third book is a bit slow, and after that it just moves along with the rapid fire pace. If you ask me, in terms of pacing, it was not consistent, but the way in which the author had paced the series was apt for it to go on. Now let's talk about the three books separately. This is the first one, Nevernight. I can say that this is a really good solid start for the series as a whole because it is not at all boring. So that setup for the series was really awesome in this one, and that's one of the main reasons why I picked up the second book the very next month itself. The second one, God's Grave, it had mostly like an arena setting, okay, in which we have a lot of fights going on, especially the fights involving our main character, and this one was awesome. I just enjoyed each and every fight scene a lot. Usually I'm not a person who likes to read a lot of action in my books when it comes to fights and stuff, but in this one I should say that I enjoyed each and every fight scene throughout all the three books. They were so brutal and so gory and very violent, but the way in which the author presents it to us by showing how our main character acts during different fight scenes, it was extremely well done, at least for my taste. So I enjoyed this throughout, and definitely this is my most favorite of all the three books. And finally, talking about Dark Dawn, which is the finale. Okay, I am actually filming this video the very next day after I finished reading the book, so I have this a lot more vivid in my mind compared to the other two books. Compared to anything else, I like the pirate adventure kind of setup that the author has provided for a major chunk of the story. For such a violent and nasty series, I should say that the ending was so perfect. Okay, it was like picture perfect if you ask me. I did not expect to be completely satisfied. There was one thing which I did not like towards the end, but it was okay because all the other things made up for that in a much greater scale than I expected. So totally I rated the entire series 5 stars. Each and every book got a 5-star rating from me. Okay, it is really rare that I rate all the books in the series 5 stars because it happens very rarely for me. It was a really good experience if you ask me, and I felt so much accomplished when I finished the last book. So yes guys, that's it for today. If you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel because I publish new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.